Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview some of the most successful real estate investors in the world to provide you with the tool sets, mindsets, and skill sets for you to be able to conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can achieve your financial freedom and live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. I'm super excited today because I get to talk to an amazing modern king with me that is here with me today. His name is Abbas. But before I introduce this modern king to you, though, I just want to ask all of you watching or listening for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, if you learn any new insight, if you get some information, if you learn any new skill, maybe some inspiration or motivation to go out and take some action and keep on moving forward towards your goals, please share this episode. Share it with someone that you think this might impact. Share it with someone that you think this will resonate with, or someone who's interested in real estate, and help us spread our message and help other people. And to all of you who take action and take a 1 minute to share it on your wall, on your Facebook group, on your Facebook story, or whatever, I send you a big hug and a big thank you. And today I have Abbas. He was born and raised in Iraq. Growing up, he remembers having to sleep on concrete floors because his family was so poor to the point where they couldn't afford to buy beds to sleep on. And hello, Modern Kings and Queens. At my company, Millionaire Network Automation, we believe in the power of networking. We believe that in real estate, your net worth is your network. This is why we help real estate investors raise capital by connecting them with their ideal investors and helping them build a massive network of their ideal investors in less than 30 days and with only 4 hours of work per week. If you're interested in this, click the link below in the description of this podcast to learn how you can propel your growth with a reliable system that will consistently help you connect with your ideal investors, build trust, add value, get your investors to promote you and put you in front of more of their investor friends, and raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way so that you can achieve your financial freedom and still have the time and the energy to pour into every single other area of your life. So go watch the training, and you're going to have the opportunity to book a call to talk about how you can get this 100% done for you system implemented in the next 5 days. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, and enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye. Abbas immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 11, and years later decided to get into real estate at the age of about 18, and paying for a startup cost with a $5,000 credit card that he had at the time. He spent 1 full year making thousands and thousands of cold calls a day to generate clients. Abbas got his first listing in the Bay Area as an agent, and within a year after that, he became one of the top producing real estate agents in the Bay Area as his business rapidly grew. After his second year in business, Abbas started implementing systems and models to scale the business and started hiring virtual assistants across all over the world to expand his businesses. And as a result of that, he was able to grow rapidly, and Abbas became one of the top 50 agents nationwide with RE/MAX in less than 5 years of being in business. And eventually, he decided to start a real estate investing business, which he now runs. So, Abbas, thank you very much for being here, man. I'm excited. And you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So, Abbas, the first thing that I do with my guests, man, is I ask them to walk us through their real estate investing journey in 75 seconds or less.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short. So, I was a real estate agent for a long time, and scaled that business up. We were doing pretty well. I mean, we were doing about $1.5–2 million a year in profit. I was top 50 in the country with RE/MAX. And it just got to a point where, I felt like I wasn't growing anymore because, to get to 3 million, 4 million was not really worth it for me because I could tell that I kind of had a ceiling, And so anyway, I was looking at multiple different investment vehicles. I looked at buying single family. I looked at buying multifamily. I looked at buying, crypto and stocks and all these different things. I decided eventually to get into multifamily because multiple reasons that we're going to talk about, but basically with multifamily, you've got scalability. You can choose where you invest without having to live there. You've got on-site staff that manages these properties. You've got better cash flow. You've got economies of scale. And so anyway, I ended up investing in multifamily back in 2021, started off as a passive investor, then started actively buying these deals and helping other people invest alongside us. So my first deal was a 64 unit deal. Then I bought a 194 unit deal, and then I stayed out of the market for 6 months in 2022, and then I bought an 80 unit townhouse deal. And so now we're at about $54 million in assets. Our target is to continue to grow that and reach $1 billion in the next 5 years.
Nice. That was nice and concise and great. So awesome. So let's see. So where were you when you say that you felt like you had a ceiling and you weren't growing anymore?
Yeah, at the time I was making about $1.5 million to 2 a year as a residential real estate agent. I had 25 VAs, and I was able to outsource pretty much most of the work, except at the time showing up and meeting clients. And so that was kind of my day-to-day task every day. And I did that so often every day to the point where I just kind of felt like I was burning out. Like I was living life on repeat every single day, just meeting clients, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And at the time, I was like, look, there has to be a better way for me to build wealth than to just work as an agent all the time. And here's the other thing about whether you have a job, you have a business, the reality is if you get laid off or if your business goes down and you don't have any investments, your income goes from whatever it is to zero overnight. And that has happened to people in business. That has happened to people that have jobs. I was just talking to a guy, he used to work at Amazon, big manager at Amazon, got laid off recently, and now he's, looking for another job. And so it's like, it could happen to any of us. And so at the time, I remember I was making a good amount of money. And I'm like, look, I have to start building passive income. I have to start building another vehicle for wealth that isn't tied to my business, that isn't tied to my job. And so that's why I started passively investing in multifamily, deployed a lot of money and started seeing cash flow, started seeing appreciation, started getting a lot of tax deductions. I actually, in 2021, I got close to $800,000 tax write-offs, which got me over $250,000 refund from the IRS. Every year I had to pay a big bill to the IRS. That year I got a refund. But the point is, it all started because I wanted a way out of my business. I wanted a way, and for some of your audience, they might want a way out of their job. And so to me, this was the way to do it.
You wanted a way out of your business, even though you had like delegated every single task except for meeting clients. And you say you were making about $1.5 million as a real estate agent. So
precisely the last year I was doing it myself, we did 1.7.
Damn. So and that's in like commissions, right? That's like your income basically, or
it was net.
Yeah, cool. So for you, so there are definitely a lot of agents. Well, yeah, a lot of agents that do that, right? But there's a lot more, like the vast 97% of agents that do not.
Correct.
So how were you able to accomplish that, man? And that was like your first business venture, right? Like being a real estate agent? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you.
How long did it take you? How long did it take you to get to that point where you were making literally almost $2 million per year in like net income?
Yeah, it took 4.5 years. So I'll tell you the story of how that started is I got started when I was 18, failed miserably at the time because I got started on a credit card, didn't know anything about running a business really. And so I thought, look, I'm going to go out door knocking. At the time I was overweight. I was 250 pounds. Now I'm 170 something. And so anyway, I was way overweight. 18-year-old kid, right, knocking on doors, asking people if they want to sell their homes. And, all my efforts fell, face flat on, and I got nothing out of it. So 3 months, knocked on doors, didn't get a single thing. And then I ran out of money. So I went back to my car sales job, which by the way, I didn't like at all. I hated that job. But at the time I was very good at it. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm back to selling cars, I have two options. One option is to quit trying to sell houses. And that basically means I have to go back to college, or I just find a different way of doing it. And at the time, I was like, look, you know what? I'm just going to try to make this work no matter what. So I started cold calling out of the car sales office when I didn't have clients. So I would start making phone calls, asking people if they want to sell their homes. And I literally would show up to the office at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave at 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes we would have customers and I would be sitting in the corner quietly asking people on the phone if they want to sell their houses. Or sometimes I would go on the rooftop, or sometimes I'd go on the bathroom. And it was, I did that for a full year before I got my first transaction. So it was definitely not easy, but I stuck through with it. My whole thing at the time was, look, I wanted to quit so bad to the point where I just decided to quit on the idea of quitting. I said, quitting is no longer an option on the table. I'm going to keep doing this until it works out, and there's no other option. So I did that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. So I did that, did my first sale, then made my second sale shortly after, my third, and then I quit selling cars permanently at that point, got all in on real estate. Within the next year, I made $350,000. At the time, I think I was 20 years old or 21 years old. And then during COVID, when everybody else was shutting down, I hired a hiring manager and I said, look, we have 3 virtual assistants. I need you to hire people nonstop because I see people reducing their marketing. I'm going to double down on marketing at this time. So we went from 3 people to 12. And that year I made 750,000 net. And then the next year afterwards, we went from 12 people to having 25 people. And then I made 1.7. And then I left the sales business the next year after I left it, and I hired someone else to do it. And now it's running passively and it's doing really, really well.
So you basically grew by taking yourself out of the equation, which is very interesting. And I want to ask into that because that's a huge lesson that I think it takes too long for entrepreneurs to learn, right? But what was it that was not working? So you spent a year cold calling, right? Until you got your first transaction. So what was it that was like not working? What was the bottleneck, man?
Yeah, I mean, see, and I remember a lot of people were telling me, look, nobody will work with a real estate agent that they get through the phone, right? And the reality is I held the belief that, look, I'm collecting leads. When I'm calling and asking people if they want to sell their homes, I was getting people that said, hey, I want to sell in the future, not right now. And so I kept accumulating those leads, and it just took a long time for them to actually start moving. But once they started moving, I was top of mind the whole time because I would call them very frequently. I would send them postcards and letters and emails. And so, by the time they were ready to sell, I was kind of their obvious, person to call because I'm the only real estate person that was following up with them. And so, it wasn't whether I was doing something wrong or not. It just took time. And I've learned that over time is that if you want to do something, you have to understand that it will take a lot more work than you ever imagined before getting in. And it will also take a lot more time than you ever imagined. And so now, anytime I do something new, I'm like, look, whatever effort I'm thinking I have to put in, I'll have to put in 10 times that at least. And it's going to take way longer than I thought. Everything looks easy when you're on the outside. Then once you get in, and you're like, oh, crap. I have to do so much more work to get this going. And a lot of times people give up because the expectation they set isn't the reality that they see. And unless they see the reality, they move on to the next get rich quick type of thing.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
They just keep doing that over and over and over again.
Yeah, and they give up 3 meters away from the gold, right? Yep. Like imagine if you had given up like, I don't know, maybe
9 months into it.
11. Exactly, right?
Yeah. My life would be different. I would have gone back to college, worked for somebody else for the rest of my life probably, and I would have hated every minute of it.
But man, what made you stick to it for like a year without seeing no results?
I was like, look, man, I just want to quit. I'm going to quit on the idea of quitting. Quitting is no longer an option. And if it's no longer an option, it's like, shit, you got to figure it out at some point. At some point, you'll make so many mistakes, you don't have any more mistakes to make. And so to me, it's like, look, that might be a 5-year process. It might be a 10-year process. It's going to be miserable. But hey, it's worked for other people, right? And so I just got to make enough mistakes to where I run into doing the right things. Later on in life, I've learned that's a bad way of doing things. I shouldn't try to make every mistake in the book to learn. But again, I was an 18-year-old dumb kid at the time. So it is what it is.
You had the energy, you had the time. It was good, right?
Yeah, it worked out. It worked out.
What is the other better way to do things, though?
To learn from other people that have done what it is I want to do. So actually, my multifamily investing company, where we help people invest passively in multifamily. I named it model equity. And the reason I named it that is because I never want to forget this lesson. And that is anytime I want to
Nice.
do something, I want to model after other people that have been successful at that exact thing I want to do and not try to figure everything out from scratch. And to me, it's such an important lesson to the point where I literally named it as my company name. So I never forget that. Model, model, model. Anything you want to try to figure out. Like if I want to become the number one agent in the country, I'll go find the number one agent in the country and see how they've done it. And I will do it exactly the way they've done it without making any changes, even if I think I'm smarter or I'm not smarter, whatever. It doesn't matter. The reality is what they've done works, and I would do it exactly the same way. Same thing with my multifamily company. To me, I look at other companies like Blackstone, and all these other companies. I'm like, they've done it correctly. I need to model after them.
Nice. And that is how you were able to go from year number one, you started investing into multifamily. And what were your results in year number one?
So we bought 37 million in the first 6 months. And then I stayed out of the market for the next 6 months. And then we started buying again, and we bought a 12.8 million, say $13 million deal afterwards. And so now we're continuing to look. But like I said, right now we're at about 54 million in assets, and our target is to get it up to $1 billion in 5 years.
So that growth, for a lot of people, would be considered extremely rapid growth, right? So, I think that one of the things that allowed you to grow that quickly was modeling, right? Someone who had already done it. Let me know if that's true, and then tell me a little bit about it. But apart from that, what else? What else was, were you implementing? Were you doing, or that contributed to that success?
So yeah, I mean, it's multiple things, right? It's not one thing. But I can tell you, like, for example, with my multifamily business, I found people that have done what I want to do. And when I model a company or I model another business, I go into extreme detail. Extreme detail. When I say extreme detail, I mean, I literally would go and I would look at every video that they have. I would listen to every podcast they have. I would literally read every contract that they put out to the public. I would go on every single LinkedIn employee and see, what the backgrounds are of these different employees and what the employees are talking about, what they're posting. I would go on their social media profiles. Like I would do so much digging to the point where it's like I become like an investigator, and I'm just kind of writing down everything I find to the point where, and that might be a month, 2 month long process where I might be doing that every day for like literally 2 months to figure out everything I can find about a company and the people inside the company and the processes and the contracts. Like there's this company, I'm going to mention their name, but like I went into their offerings, downloaded their offerings, and read hundreds of pages on multiple different offerings to see exactly how they structure their investments and how they do everything. It's like I just go into such extreme detail to the point where I can see everybody's business model, and then I will take this side of this business that is successful. Then I'll go into another business that is doing something maybe a little different. I will take the things that are successful in their businesses. So I just keep doing that. So I find the plan, and then I just take massive action. It's like sometimes I notice people get the right plan, but they don't take action. They don't work, right? And so I work a lot. I love working. I love my business. And so I'm willing to work every single day. I don't care. And I just follow the plan. I don't think, hey, I'm smarter than these guys, or, oh, these guys are not as techy as I am. I need to do it in a newer, more techy way. It's like, no, I'll look at what they've done and I'll just copy it verbatim, like exactly the way they've got it. And when I get to their level, I will change it. But I'm not going to do that until I get to their level.
How simple, right?
It's very simple. It's very simple.
And who taught you this, man? Was it just like experience?
Yeah. I mean, I failed so many times. At some point, I just realized, you know what it is? Like my sales business was not done this way. My sales business, I figured out, most of it on my own, whether it's like, the cold calling or hiring the virtual assistants, the way we set up our mailers, the way we follow up on our leads and convert them. And it's like, man, I took so much risk by figuring it out by myself, because the reality is if I had missed any of these details, I would have been out of business. Versus the people that, I taught friends and colleagues how I did my business, and they were able to just copy it and get, very good results very quickly. And it's like, God, I wish I had someone that paved the way for me the way I'm paving the road for them. And so when I got to multifamily, it was easy to find people that have already paved the way for me. And so I just had to copy them and not, so I did I did what my friends did to me in the sales business. My friends would copy my systems and be, successful. I did the same thing in multifamily by copying other people that are ahead of me.
Nice. And that's how you were able to quit to grow so quickly, just by modeling. That's why your company's named after that model, Equity.
Correct.
Right?
That's exactly right. And here's the thing. There's so many mistakes somebody could make. And by modeling other people that have already made those mistakes, that are already on the other side, that are already successful, it vastly reduces your chances of failure.
Yeah, and you're not buying, like information. You're buying time, which is what's valuable, right, from those types of investments. Because time is life, and life has no price, right? And when you are not, investing with money, when you're not spending money, you're spending something else. You're spending either effort, you're spending suffering, you're spending time, but you're always spending. So you decide what you spend.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, look, I decide that I can't get some of that info for free or by just copying people. I might have to go into a mastermind or a program or whatever. And I'm like, I wanted to learn how to speak, so I paid this guy 25,000 to go learn how to speak, and he had a 2-day basically event. That's fine for me. I want to learn how to set up stages, and so I paid another guy. So the point is, like, anytime I find something, it's like, if I can't get it for free by spending a lot of time just digging through information, and if they don't have a product that they offer where they teach people, then I'll pay for it if I can't find it on my own. But the reality is, like you said, you're going to pay for it anyway, whether it's through time or through effort. And so I would rather write a check. And like I can tell you, in 2021, I probably spent $150,000 to $200,000 just on different masterminds and coaching programs. If you actually go through my social media, you'll see I was in a different city almost every single week, and because I was going to all these different programs. And although I spent a lot of money on that, I learned a lot. I learned a lot during that time. And so now I'm in the process of just implementing everything.
Nice. How long ago did you not spend, but invest in the speaking thing?
Yeah, I think it was like about a year and a half ago. And so what's interesting about that, like I spent, like I said, 25,000, went to a 2-day boot camp. The guy, he was an expert speaker, taught me how to, because I had a big fear of speaking in front of people. And so from there, I started hosting webinars. I started attending events and speaking at other people's events. Now I'm hosting my biggest physical event. We have 420 people, 430 people signed up coming up in about a couple of weeks. I could have never done that, or I could have maybe, but it would have taken way longer to get these type of results had I done it, without somebody helping me through it. So again, I mean, could you do it on your own? For sure, but why would you waste the time? I need to compress time. I need to take someone's 20 years of experience and get it in like a weekend, because to me, that's a faster way of growing.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. Well, because I also invested in a speaking mastermind, and after making that pretty big investment, that would be considered pretty big investment for most people. I threw my first event 3 weeks after that. So I don't know if it was like the mastermind or the investment that led me to actually take massive action, man. I
think it's both.
Yeah, right.
You spend that amount of money, you want to justify it. It's kind of like if you have a personal trainer, right, at the gym. It's like you start putting in more effort to go to the gym because you're paying somebody to help you through it. And so if you're
you can't miss.
You can't miss now because and so yeah, I think it's both. I think the fact that you spend the money gets you skin in the game, and that gets you to commit to actually doing it.
Because the information, man, wasn't even that like life changing. There was 2 things that I got from that. Number one is like a belief shift, like a shift in your beliefs and your fundamental beliefs that you have. Basically, it was a 3-day mastermind for me. And the whole 3 days, like the number one goal for the host was to get the attendees to believe that they were already speakers, that the world was their stage, that Facebook Live was their stage, that Facebook Stories were their stage, and that they were already speakers. Like, or who's going to tell you that you're a speaker? Who's going to qualify? No, like you can already speak. Like speakers speak, and just go out and speak. Like that was the number one thing that the host tried to get people to believe, that like the identity, like he was trying to get them to adopt the identity of, I'm a professional speaker. That's it.
For sure.
That's the number one thing. And the second thing was a presentation model. right? Which was Expert Secrets, like the book from Russell Brunson. I don't know if you're
Oh, yeah,
familiar with
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I had read it already, like like a months or years before that, multiple times. And when I went there, like he just decided to like become really good at that model and then teach it to people. And those were the two things, man. And that literally cost like 20K. But it was worth it because if it hadn't been for that investment, for that experience, for those 3 days, for connecting with the people that I connected with and experiencing everything that I experienced, I wouldn't have left feeling like a professional speaker and then taking action and three weeks later hosting my own event, which was
For
life
sure.
changing.
For
Right?
sure. No, and you know what? I mean, it kind of reminds me when I did my first sale. My first sale, it wasn't the fact that I did my first sale that mattered. What mattered is now I had the belief that I actually could sell a real estate by calling people on the phone and building my database. That way, when everybody else was telling me I couldn't. And so that was life changing enough to the point where it helped me stick through it. Then I got my second, third, and then life kind of went on from there. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's all about that belief. Once you believe it and you go after it and you see any sort of success from it, it gives you that confidence to keep on with it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So this event that you're hosting, by the way, man, hosting a physical event was one of the best experiences in my life, man. Like
Yeah.
it was crazy. Like my family went, my wife and my daughter were there, my grandma was there, and then just standing up there, right, just naked, vulnerable, right, presenting in front of all of these people, just showing them who I was and what I got, and look, this is who I am, and this is what I got to offer, and then at the end, just asking them for money, man. Honestly, like that was like at the time, that felt like the top thing that a human being could do, right?
Yeah.
Like just standing in front of a group of professionals, like a group of serious people that are trying to grow and trying to provide for their families, and then showing them who they are, and with no guilt, no shame, no fear, nothing, man. It was like one of
It's
the
a big
most beautiful
fear, man.
experiences.
It's a big
Yeah.
fear that you overcame. It's interesting. I read that public speaking is feared more than death. People are more afraid of public speaking than they are death. And so like you accomplished, I think just getting it out of the way and speaking is phenomenal. And what's interesting is that like I used to be so afraid to speak on podcasts, webinars, in person, and then you do it and you've got that fear. It doesn't go away the first time. Maybe it doesn't ever go away. But the point is over time, it starts mattering less and less and less to the point where you just kind of stop caring. And then that's when you realize like, oh, this is not really that different. It's like talking to one person, but you're talking to a lot of people, right? But now I actually enjoy it more. Like I do a weekly webinar now. A year ago, if you'd have told me I would be having a weekly webinar and having a bunch of people on every week, I'd have said, you're crazy. I would never want to do that, right? But now I do it and I enjoy it and it's fun. Same thing with speaking events. Like I spoke last time to 150 people. Again, could have never imagined myself doing that a year ago, but now it's like, oh, yeah, whatever, no big
That's
deal.
awesome.
Yeah.
So what is this physical event that is coming up about? Like when is it and what is it about?
Yeah. So
And
it's
who
May
is it for?
6th. It's May 6th. It's a multifamily real estate event. We're going to teach people about multifamily investing, how to choose the right markets, how to invest in the right areas, what to look for, some red flags to avoid, how to add value when you buy a real estate deal, how to choose the right loan product for your deals. I mean, just a bunch of things about multifamily real estate. It's going to be a free event all day long. We currently, like I said, I think we have like 430 people registered. It's the biggest real estate event in the Bay Area.
Where's the Bay Area, man? Is that in
California?
California? Okay.
Yep.
Bay Area.
We're about 50 minutes south of San Francisco.
Okay. Okay. Nice. So you're going to be teaching people about multifamily. So have you started to teach, like coach people on that?
Yeah, so we do a weekly event where we teach people about multifamily, for free on Tuesdays, and
The weekly webinar?
yeah, weekly webinar exactly. And the reason behind it is this, a lot of people want to really understand, what it is that they're investing into, and the more they understand it, the more confidence they will get when it comes time to invest. And on these webinars, we don't pitch people on an investment. It's a free educational webinar, brings in a lot of people, grows our database, and then a lot
Which
of
is
times
the lesson that you are taking from the real estate, right? Yeah.
correct,
Building your
yeah,
database, just building people
building a big
that feel
database
in debt to you, right?
for sure. And now we're getting about 400 to 500 new investors in the database every month because of that. And so, we do that. And what happens is a lot of people are like, hey, look, you know what? I I can definitely see the upside of multifamily investing. I don't want to do it myself like you teaching us. So I would rather just invest in real estate through your company and get 5-6% cash flow, get maybe 15 to 20% in appreciation a year, and get the tax deductions without having to actively do it. And so that's kind of been the biggest benefit. Now, if you do want to actively do it, the information is great. You can take action. I give you the step-by-step instructions, but most people are making enough money from their job or their business where they want to add multifamily as a secondary income source, but not necessarily, quit their job or quit their business. But what it is for most people is they want to have the ability to not rely on their job as much as they currently do.
Yeah. So, man, you want to know something? Your energy, like just your vibe, feels like that saying. Like you literally embody that saying of just give and then you receive. Like you feel, because you're talking right now, like you're just every single week out there, every Tuesday giving value, just hosting these webinars, free education for all this for people for free, and you're not pitching anything, you're not trying to sell them anything, you're just educating them, right? And then it comes back to you. So you really, like
100%.
your whole energy ever since I got into this podcast with you, feels like that, man. You know how like you get that advice, right? Like young entrepreneurs, like they're always getting that advice. Just focus on giving value. Don't focus on the money. Just give value to people, and then the money will come, right? Well,
For sure.
you feel like that advice, man. I think that whenever that advice is given, you is how it's supposed to feel. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I appreciate that. I always tell people, look, I want our free content to be better than content that you'd have paid tens of thousands of dollars for. Like that is like every week I spend so much time coming up with the presentation, and not only the content, but I make it look nice, because I know people consume information better when it looks nice in a presentation form. And so, so it's like not just information, but I want to make it entertaining information, and I want to give people actionable steps, because otherwise it's like I tell people, if you're just learning and you're not taking action, you're wasting your time here, right? There's no point in attending these. And so, what happens is you give enough value, people feel indebted to you. And so when you want to, raise money on a deal or whatever, then they feel more obligated, not because they have to, but because they want to give back. People want to give back to people that give to them for free. Like if you gave me a cup of water, I would be like, I got to give this guy something back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because that's how humans are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's just the law of reciprocity, right?
For sure.
So let's see. So, man, you want to get to a billion or 5 billion?
$1 billion in assets in the next 5 years.
In 5 years, okay. $1 billion.
And that's been done by a lot of people. Like it's nothing special. We're not going to the moon or anything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you're just modeling them. You probably already spent 2 months, right, going through all of their stuff, and you're
a lot more than that. But yeah, no, I mean it's interesting, man. It's like everything in my business has already been done by other people, and we just copy it, and eventually we start doing it better. Like the weekly webinars, that wasn't my idea. That was someone else's who raised $300 million. I went, learned everything that they did, saw how they advertise, how they do these, and that at first did it exactly the way they do it. And then later on, like, okay, well, we are getting the same amount of traction as they are. Now let me see how I can make them better. And so then in my opinion, now, they're a lot different and in many ways better. But the point is, I couldn't have done it had I not modeled after the other company and the other person who initially started this. So it's like, I don't take credit for it at all,
Mm-hmm.
But we do take action. And that's the difference. Like he's taught that same thing to a lot of people and they never do anything,
Yeah. So, man, you want to know how many people, I don't know how many people went to the mastermind. There were quite a few. And I was like, and then a few people closed, including me. So it was a 3-day event. I closed on the first day. So on the first day, I was like, here, man, I don't need to wait to the end of the event for me to know that I want to be a speaker. I gave him the money right there. I like wired the money to him, and I stayed for the event, obviously. But you want to know how many people actually threw an event? It's been 7 months since then. And you want to know how many people have thrown an event?
Probably
just one.
2. Yeah.
Just one. And it was me.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. That's the way it is. And it's unfortunate to see that. It really is unfortunate to see that. But what I learned is that if people don't want it bad enough themselves, you can never encourage them to do it. So, you either want it and you do it or you don't, and that's fine,
Yeah. So man, I end my podcast with a couple of questions, but before I ask you the first ones, and I keep on going with that. Is there anything that you would want to say to the audience? Normally, the people who hear and who will be listening to this podcast are people who have chosen to use real estate as their wealth creation vehicle, and they are either aspiring real estate investors, right? They're like real estate investors or aspiring real estate investors, but either way, they've chosen to use real estate as their wealth creation vehicle, either by investing passively or actively, or eventually, passively and then eventually actively as well. So before asking you the questions that I asked to end this interview, is there anything that you would like to say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, in my opinion, you work hard for your money and you have to start it off with education, because without education, you're going to invest in the wrong things and you're not going to do well, or you might even lose your money. So you have to start off with education to make sure you're taking the right action. So the first step is, if you make an investor account on our website, you'll start getting these weekly webinars that we do for free. You don't have to, pay anything. And that gets you the education piece of it. Then the next thing is, when we do have an investment for you to potentially look at or invest in, then you can evaluate it, you know what you're looking at, and you can choose to decide if you're going to invest or not invest. There's obviously no obligation. So I would say the first step is make an investor account on our website, so that way you get access to these weekly webinars and you get access to our future offerings. By the way, we don't post these on social media. They're only to our email database. So you have to be on that in order to get those. So if you go to the website modelequity.com, that's MODEL equity.com, and you could just click on create investor account on the top right side. Then you can fill out your info. It takes like literally 30 seconds. And then once you fill out your info, you'll be in our database, and you could also book a free 15-minute call with me and ask any questions you want out there as well.
Awesome. That's great. We're gonna have that link that you just mentioned, by the way.
I appreciate that.
In the description of this podcast. So the first question, man, is, what is a false belief that you see real estate investor beginners have that holds them back on like, I don't know, maybe just going all in and doing what they got to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest false belief is that, oh, I want to work my way up from single family to duplexes to fourplexes to 10plexes. And it's like, dude, there's so many hurdles in those smaller deals, and it's so much harder. You'll actually give up before you ever get to the units and higher.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
I can tell you, I've done 64, I've done 194, I've done 80. The smaller deals are way harder to manage because you've got less people that could help you with these on site, and it's just not as scalable. You don't get the economies of scale. So if you're going to do it, this is coming from a guy who's done bigger deals, and I used to be a residential broker, and I used to sell these single family houses. Skip over it. Learn about multifamily, learn about 50 plus units. You will have, in my opinion, way better results than you would if you were to invest in a single family or small, duplexes.
Yeah, just go bigger, faster, right? As soon as you can.
For sure.
Awesome. The next question is, what is let's flip it and tell me, what is a empowering belief or like an empowering mindset that you've seen successful real estate investors have?
That's a good question. I would say the most successful investors that I deal with think in long-term instances, where it's not like, hey, what's happening this month, what's happening in 6 months. The way successful real estate investors think is in 5 years, in 10 years. Is this property we're buying, is it going to be probably valued higher in 5 years, or are we going to probably be valued lower in 5 years or 10 years? Because really, real estate is not a short-term investment. It's a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year, maybe even 10-year type of investment. So you have to, when I choose markets, when I choose property, I'm thinking, am I going to want to hold on to this property 5 years from now? Am I going to want to hold on to this property 10 years from now in this market, in this location, with this economy going down, right? Sometimes I see people get too caught up in the small details that don't really matter in the long term.
Like what?
Like, I read an article the other day, and they're like, oh, vacancy is up 0.6%. And it's like, who cares? 0.6. Do you think 0.6% is going to matter in 5 years? And obviously and this was a while ago, and now vacancy is back down. So it's like that little 0.6% has already been wiped out, and we're back to normal. So it's like, but people are on an emotional roller coaster. They see articles like that, they get worried, and then, oh, well, this has gone out now, and so then they're not afraid anymore. So it's like there's too much emotion. And when it comes to investing, you shouldn't be emotional. You should be very analytical. You should be very numbers based. Otherwise, if you are just emotional about things, you're going to make bad decisions, in my opinion.
For sure. And the last question is, building relationships and networking is key, right? To be the successful in the real estate investing game, raising capital, finding deals, and all of that. So what is a successful strategy that you've found works for you to build this network?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll tell you, when I first started, and you have to understand, well, at what point are we starting, right? So this is going to be dependent on the audience. When I first started, I didn't know anybody, right? I spent 5 years of my life building my business by myself. I had like 4 or 5 friends, and that was it. And so I needed to build a database. And so the way I did it is I used to go to real estate events, multifamily events, non-multifamily events, whatever. I used to go to real estate events, connect with people, get to know them, have them get to know me to see if we can do some sort of deal in the future. Later on, I changed that strategy from networking events to doing webinars and doing events. And to me, that has now been much better because it's a lot more scalable. I could talk to 70 people at the same time rather than one person at one time. And so, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been able to do that if it was the first thing I ever did. I had to start with one-on-one networking. I had to start with phone calls. I had to start with Zoom calls, and then eventually get to this. But eventually, you want to start with one-on-one, and then eventually do one-to-many if possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one-to-many is great. That's exactly why I wanted to become a speaker. Now that I am, nobody's gonna take that skill set away from me, man. Which is crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about.
And it only gets better and better with time.
Yeah, it's so cool, right? Awesome. Well, man, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you very much. And if people, resonated with you and they like Abbas, right, and they wanna maybe become part of your investor database and wanna get all of the free resources and education and information that you put out. You mentioned your website, but is there another good resource or place that we can find you in?
Yeah, I mean, they can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the same name, Abbas Mohammed. But once you sign up on our website, modelequity.com, then you basically get a list of everything that we're on. You get into our email database. So that's where you start to see deals. That's where you see the webinars and all that sort of stuff as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all of your social media under the description of wherever this appears, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I'll see you later.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we're super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your social media as a post or a story. We have a special gift for all of those who contribute to the Modern Kings and Queens movement. So for those of you who decided to share this episode and help us spread our message, send me a message letting me know on any social media platform at Alex Ramirez, the Modern King. I have a special surprise for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.